I'm Christian.
Hi, I'm Christian.
Hi, I'm Christian.
Hi, I'm Christian. And tonight we have the honor of introducing another Christian, Christian Burke, Cate class of 2016.
The goal of Cate's computational thinking program is to enable students to pursue their passions with computation as their secret superpower. Christian started that journey here at Cate, but since leaving he has gone places that were almost literally unthinkable when he graduated 6 years ago.
For the past 6 years, Christian has worked at the Refik Anadol studio. This studio integrates data, artificial intelligence, and machine learning to create immersive public art installations. As the head of engineering and the lead data scientist at the studio, Christian leads a diverse team of experts spanning machine learning, AI, and data science.
Beyond his primary role, Christian also serves as the studio's principal web and Web3 developer and Web3 project manager. Those of you who were here last year may remember the presentation on Web3 and the blockchain-enabled internet developed by Christian's classmate, Ian Halpern.
Christian has been a major contributor to art installations around the world, including the Museum of Modern Art in New York City and the Sphere in Las Vegas. He walks the boundary between computation, science, and art, pushing the limits of all three. Please join us in welcoming Christian Burke.
Well, it's good to be back here, and thanks to the fleet of Christians for the lovely introduction. Ooh, I don't know if the clicker is working. Uh-oh. Put it back.
On the side. Turn up.
No luck. I have a few slides in the beginning. I don't know if you can go maybe back to the start. Slide one. There are a couple before this. Yeah, here we go. Okay, hey everyone. So hi, my name is Christian Burke, and as you guys now know, I'm the head of engineering at Refik Anadol studio. Next slide, please. Let's get a little bit about me first. So I grew up in New York. I grew up in Westchester, New York, with 2 other siblings. So you can see us all there. We also had a lot of dogs. This was great. And then when I was a freshman in high school, I decided that it was time for a change in my life. And so I came here to Cate as a new sophomore, and the year after, my family moved out here to Santa Barbara. So there I am, my lovely mother, who I'm not sure if she's here yet. She will come tonight. Love her very much. Shout out to my mom. Just lovely mom. We can go next slide. So I came to Cate as a new sophomore, and I graduated in 2016. I liked playing lacrosse. I liked hanging out with my friends, and from a really early age, and from the start of Cate, I actually became very interested in both art and data and computer science. We can go to the next slide. Again, from a young age, this was a passion of mine. And when I was here at Cate, I was actually partaking in the arts program. So you can see this is a portrait I drew of one of my classmates, Anna Graves. I was really able to explore a lot of these things in depth here at Cate, and for that I'll always be extremely grateful. And at the same time, thanks to Cal's program and the start of CS here at Cate, I was able to start learning how to code from pretty early on. You can go next slide. So I graduated from Cate in 2016, and before going off to Duke, I actually took a gap year to go work. And I worked, not in a technical field. I worked for 2 startup companies in Durham, North Carolina. One of them was a healthy energy drink company, and the other was an antiperspirant hand and foot lotion. It was sort of an interesting departure from what I'm doing now, but alas, it was a great experience to actually figure out, what's the value in doing some of this work. It really helped me frame why I wanted to go to school and what I wanted to do. So I went to Duke, and I decided, from that work experience, I said, hey, I really want to study something technical in college. I want to figure out something that I would have a very difficult time of achieving otherwise, and this is what I want to take away from education. So I went to Duke, and I studied computer science. I was a computer science major. Of course, I was still really interested in the arts, though. And so what I did was I minored in classical archaeology. And so I was studying computers and programming and math, and also classical archaeology, which is an interesting combination of things. By the time I was a sophomore, I actually met Refik at UCLA, and he kind of said to me, "Hey, dude, can you download the internet?" I said, "Well, I don't know, I can try." And so I started working for Refik as a data scientist in 2018, and what I was working on was data collection for training AI models. So I started working as a sophomore in college, and honestly, things went so well from there that I continued working full-time throughout the duration of my college experience. Go next slide. So that brings us to where we are today. For the last several years, I have been working with Refik Anadol on creating what we call machine hallucinations. And this is really a study of machine intelligence, of AI, of data and art, and embedding it into life and bringing it to people. We are aiming to make these things applicable to your lives, make them, understandable, and to really demystify some of the ambiguity of AI and make it tangible. So we can go next slide. So just a quick thank you to the team. We have an amazing team at the studio. It's a really, really multidisciplinary process to bring this stuff together. We have an excellent team of data scientists and machine learning engineers who are doing excellent work. We have a team of architects, we have a team of generative designers, we have a team of 3D artists. So there are a lot of people that come and make this together. So that's one thing that's definitely really, really great about what we do, is bringing together all of these different fields and workflows. We'll get next. So, from a very early stage, what we were really trying to do is put together an archive of the world. So we took some inspiration from the Library of Babel. You can see here. You can go next slide. And this is one of the first projects that we worked on in 2016 to 2017. So I actually didn't partake in this one, right? This was kind of an early concept of what we were doing. And essentially, the idea for this project was to look at all of these archives from the Salt Public Library and bring them together into an immersive experience so that you can really understand what your data is, what it looks like, and have super in-depth exploration of this archive, of this library. And this was the start of a really beautiful mission to bring data to life, to bring data to people. Go next slide. This is a showreel from the studio, and of course the other important part of this is not just creating this digital art and working with these digital archives, but was to bring them to reality as well. When we interact with something in the physical world, there's something that becomes so tangible about it that can be really difficult to understand otherwise. And so what you're seeing here are just some samples of the work that we've done over the years. We take this otherwise digital artwork and bring it into the physical space to allow you to understand, to allow you to interact with and communicate the beauties of data and how they manifest in a bunch of different ways. So we go next slide. So super happy to say that a lot of the work that we do is really, really grounded in AI. Whenever we work on a project, it starts from the AI models almost always. And since 2016, we have now collected over 4.5 billion images and trained nearly 200 different AI models since 2017. So this is a great benchmark. The next slide. And what we do with these AI models is try to turn them into artwork. So what you're seeing on the left is actually the result of a GAN walk. This is an AI model that has seen a lot of images of these different documents. And so these are computer-generated video sequence of these documents. And on the right side is how we're translating that into some of our artwork that you might be more familiar with. And so whenever you look at something like this on the left, there are certain vectors that you can extrapolate from it, right? Like you look at the motion of, or the movement of the colors, you look at the colors of the particles, and we try to translate that directly into these particle simulations. So you can kind of tell, maybe from the, we can go to the next slide. So here's an example actually from when we were working with the MoMA, so you can see very specifically. So like the left side is raw AI, and the right side is how we're translating that into an artwork. And so you can see that the colors of the particles and the movements are actually strongly influenced by the AI models. And so this is kind of how we do what we do. Move to the next slide. So yeah, since 2016, we've put together a really, really great body of work and been involved in so many different kinds of data sets and pieces of artworks and showings around the world. It's really an honor to be a part of this team and to work on projects that are so motivational and inspirational. And these are just some of the works that we've done throughout the years. There are tons and tons of others. I even get lost sometimes in where we are and what the works are that we've released. We can go next slide. Yeah. And we also like to explore several different kinds of data exploration as well. So this is what we call a UMAP. So this is something that's generally referred to as dimension reduction. And so what you do here is you take, let's say, an image archive, for example, and anytime you put this through an AI model, what you end up getting out is a really long string of numbers that represents the image, right? You put an image into the model, and what you get out is like 1,000 numbers that classify the image, but they mean nothing to a human. And so we can do some, different map techniques and perform something called dimension reduction. And so we take a 1,000 dimensional vector and crush it down to 3 or 6 dimensions so that you can visualize it. And so these graphics right here are actually clustering of an image archive. So there are points in here, and all the points that are closer to each other are images that are more similar. So there are tons and tons of different ways that we like to explore data and really pay attention to this holistically as well. I'll move to the next slide. And one more. Cool. So the next part of this that's really important is actually embedding this AI into architecture. It's great to make digital art, but it doesn't mean quite as much unless we communicate it to people. Next slide. So here was one of the first major studio projects. This was Walt Disney Concert Hall in downtown LA. And what we did was took an archive of videos from the Walt Disney Concert Hall and did a projection mapping onto the outside of the building. Go next slide. I'm going to go one more, actually. So here's how that actually ended up manifesting in the world. You can start to see that people are really gathered around this and paying attention to it. And I think it's one of the really important parts of what we do is bring people together and create these sort of like emotional and physical reactions to this work. And it's really the power of art in particular. We do a lot of public art, and so it's just so empowering to see people come together and experience art, experience life. Reflect on the important memories that are part of bringing this together and making this happen. You might see visualizations somewhere in here where it looks really familiar to something you might have seen at the Walt Disney Concert Hall before. And so people will understand this. And really, it's just a beautiful way to communicate art and the power of AI to people. We'll go next slide. So this was actually the first project that I worked on personally for the studio. This was machine hallucinations in New York City. Fun fact about this project, we actually collected 391 million images from New York to train an AI model for this. In 2019, at the time, that was actually the largest data set ever collected for the purpose of public art. And so what we did was, this was at a museum in New York City called Arctic House, and yeah, we created this beautiful immersive installation here that just embodied New York City. This was really a turning point for us because it was the first time that we really started exploring big data and the meaning of big data, and how we can take that information and manifest it as an artwork that conveys emotion, impact, and representations of New York or more generally just anything to people, right? The whole goal is to communicate some greater meaning to people. Let's move on next slide. So this is actually a sample of some of the GAN outputs from this. This is a really cool program that we have, actually. So this is one of the ways that we allow our artists to interact with the AI models. So on the left side is a clustering, basically, of the computer-generated images of New York, and on the right side is an output based on where you are in the current space. And so you can fly through, you can see, like on the left, that there are a bunch of images of the Statue of Liberty. So you can see you're in the Statue of Liberty zone, and on the right side is the output. And so you can fly around through this cluster, and you'll end up seeing different landscape, like landmarks that are familiar. You can see the Chrysler Building or something else. As you fly toward these on the left side, the right side is actually the output of it. And so this is a tool that we made with the AI team to allow the artists to interact with AI models in a really simple and tangible way. And this program is connected to a PlayStation controller. So I've seen kids, as young as 3 years old, flying through here and exploring AI models. And it's really an honor to just be able to take these complex concepts and convey them to people in a meaningful way. Go to the next slide. Here's another project we worked on. This was Cate School. We actually have a permanent installation in this building as well. If you ever go, check it out. It's really nice. This is a projection mapping performance that we did on the outside of the building. So we ingested all of the data that the Convocation team had. We had a LiDAR scanning done of the outside of the building so that we could do this projection mapping, which was really complicated by the way the curves of all the balconies on this building are so unique. We used the data we had available to make this beautiful visualization. And here's like another example of just bringing people together to experience something unique. You can see how many people are down there. I think we had roughly 50,000 people attend and watch this live. It's just amazing. It's just amazing to be able to make this kind of impact in the world. I'm really excited. I'm going to go more. Yeah, this is also the Sphere in Las Vegas. So, we're doing things all over the world. We're doing projects everywhere. Sphere is another great example of just a beautiful canvas for us to go and portray our AI artwork on. I'm going to decide. So, the future of arts generative AI is a very, very interesting subject for us. This is something that we explore every day. We can go next slide. So, maybe some of you have seen this before, but in the last couple of years, we worked on a project called Unsupervised, which was seen at the MoMA. And this was actually displayed in the lobby of the MoMA from, I believe it was October of 2022, all the way through November of 2023. And this was the first really, really meaningful time, I think, in the world that we saw a digital artwork go and be shown at an institutional museum. And this really, really meant a lot for us in terms of the validity of digital art as a medium. I think very often people will give feedback and say, oh, I don't know, AI art this, AI art that. Is it real art? Does it count? And I think this was a super important benchmark moment where this was really validated. Move on, next slide. Here are some of the outputs for the model itself. So what we did actually was took the MoMA's data set. They have a really beautiful digital archive that's actually available on GitHub if anyone wants to go check it out. They have a beautiful archive available on GitHub, and we took all of the images from that and trained our own AI model on the artworks of the MoMA. So these are some examples from the kind of raw outputs of this. This is what the model got to see and ingest and learn from the MoMA's archive itself. We'll go next slide. So, again, I was showing the program earlier where you can go and look through and, kind of create this, fly through the latent space, we call it, where you're going and exploring computer-generated images. But here are video sequences stitched together of that. There are definitely moments in here where you can go and you see, oh, wow, I understand what this looks like. Even though it's somewhat abstract, I see an artist that feels familiar, or I see something that looks familiar from something else in the MoMA's archive. And you can really see that represented here. I'm going to go next slide. So this was the installation in the lobby of the MoMA. This was playing almost every day for an entire year, and it was just phenomenal. Maybe the thing to call out about this project as well right now is that it was also originally an NFT project. This was a project that we did in Web3 with the MoMA at first, and it was so well received that they said, hey, let's bring it into the physical space. So not only was this the first really big AI artwork that was taken in an institutional museum, but it was also the first digital collectible we saw adopted by a museum as well. So this was a really, really important landmark moment for the studio. I'm moving to the next slide. So there it is in the lobby, just to give you a sense of the space. It was really just phenomenal to go and witness. Moving to the next slide. And now, this is where it starts getting interesting, because this is also the first time that we really did meaningful interactive artwork. So what you're seeing on the ceiling right there is actually a microphone and a motion tracker. And so we attached this microphone and motion tracker to the ceiling here, and we also have a weather station plugged in outside. And we were taking live feedback from the room and from the weather to go and influence the artwork at any given moment in time. And so if the room is really super loud, you would see it reflected in the artwork. If it's quiet, you'd see it reflected in the artwork. Same thing for the motion tracking of the weather. So it was really nice to start incorporating some of these external factors into the actual artwork itself. I think it played a very important part in making sure it was coherent with the environment at any given time. Go next slide. And this is one of the UIs that we developed. So you couldn't see it there, but we actually had a separate screen off to the side of the MoMA as well. One of the things that we really aim to do is demystify AI and convey to people how this works. This is a little, maybe too much information to digest in the course of this talk today. But here it is. This is everything that's going on. This is how our AI model was making decisions as to what to play. It was a live stream of the data that we were feeding in. kind of on the right side, you can see some of the more weather data being played here. The center section is about how it was selecting which different, lanes or pieces of the AI model to show at any given time. Even have like the network architecture running live on the left side there. So again, right, like demystifying AI, bringing it to people, making it tangible and communicable, really important to us. We go next slide. And this just had a profound effect. Again, right, like we do a lot of public artwork, and the whole purpose of public artwork is to impact people and to move people. It's very infrequent that you see this kind of appreciation for the art, even at an institution like MoMA. I think one of the great statistics that we always take away from this is the average view time of any given artwork at the MoMA is roughly 15 to 30 seconds. But the average time that people spent watching this installation was 30 to 45 minutes. So it was really great to just see this kind of engagement. Can you go next slide? So on to what we're doing a little bit more today. One of the topics that I think we're really interested in right now is AI and nature. AI and nature, we can go next slide, is a really fascinating subject. And even from very early on, like the 2016, 2018 days, we were training models on flowers. And we were always just blown away because oftentimes working with a model like this requires a lot of fine-tuning, a lot of tweaking of the parameters to make sure that the outputs actually look good. But there's something so beautiful and tangible about the structures in nature that's really well learned in AI. And so we observed this from a very early onset day. This is a pretty early GAN of ours, maybe 2018 or 2019. And you can just see how well represented these flora species are in this model. It's really beautiful to see. Come next slide. And we're working on bringing this to people, and of course, everyone loves flowers. This is great, beautiful. This was a project in Bulgaria. I think this was done in Florence. Where we go, and we actually used the flowers to make this AI model and turn it into an artwork. Another thing about this project actually is we trained an AI scent model as well. So there was a whole system that was creating these scents real time, pumping them into the room. So you would see certain flower species, and then you would actually be able to smell them as well. So we go next slide. And last year at the World Economic Forum, we went and we took this one step further. And we were really trying to raise awareness for the preservation of nature, in particular here, this is the corals, right? Corals are being destroyed all over the world. And so we were trying to use our art, about nature to empower change. And so we went and we presented these at World Economic Forum, and it received terrific feedback. Go to the next slide. And you can see people really took this away, and they took meaning away from it. If what we can do is create an artwork that goes and brings about change in the world, then we have really succeeded in our mission to a new degree. Go next slide. So, here's another example of that from this past year. This is actually a trip. So Refik went to the Amazon rainforest and really deep in the Amazon jungle. Go next slide. And worked with this group of indigenous people. These are the Yawanawa. Go next slide. And they have really beautiful artworks. They have really beautiful artworks. And so, we can go next slide also. And so what we did was train an AI model using their artworks and created a digital collectible, which we went and then sold to our collectors. And all of the funds from this project were actually given back to the Anadol people. And so we raised nearly $4 million for this indigenous tribe in the Amazon rainforest. And what they're doing with that is building a new school, new housing, they're building a community ground for nearly 13 other tribes to go and gather there. And this is just a really critical moment where we came to realize we can empower people, we can empower and bring about change in the world through AI and digital art and nature. So this was just a terrific way to give back to people. And always, when we're connecting the artwork with the mission and bringing about change in the world, this is how we use AI. So we can go next slide. So what we're working on right now is something called the large nature model. Next slide. Yeah, which is focusing predominantly on flora, fauna, and fungi species. Go next slide again. Yeah, and we're, one of the things to call out here that's important is that we're actually receiving this data directly from partners. I think when we talk about AI, a lot of the concern about it at the moment is data sourcing, right? Are people collecting my data and training AI models for that? These are questions that we receive all the time. And so paying special attention to ethical data collection is absolutely critical at this juncture. So we have fantastic partners who are providing us with this data, which we're super grateful for. Good next slide. And we are also traveling around the world to go collect this data ourselves. So this is a list of 16 different locations that we were planning on traveling to. I think we've been to 3 of them to go collect data to train our own models with. We go next. Oh, sorry, one more. Okay, we can move forward also. All right, one more. There we go. Okay. Yeah, so just recently we actually worked with the NVIDIA team. We worked with the NVIDIA AI team to go and train a fine-tuned model using a lot of this nature data that we were looking at. And one of the questions we were asking ourselves is, can we go and make realistic outputs from AI models? Oftentimes the model is pretty imaginative, maybe not super realistic. And we were noticing this particularly when it came to flora, fauna, and fungi species. One of the things that we talk about all the time in AI is bias in models. And we were noticing a negative bias against accurate generations of these species. And so we went and paid really special attention to this. We have nearly almost 100 million images that are labeled with like the scientific name, the common name, the geographic region, the coordinates, like where the photos were taken. And so we were using this to go and try to train a hyper-realistic model that was well representative of these different species in nature. And so we go next slide. One more. And so here are some just example outputs from this. And it was really, really great. It was really nice to be able to see these kinds of realistic generations from an AI model, which we have not really shown too much of before. And so, you can go and, take any sort of images you want. There's plenty of data available online, there's plenty of resources available online to go and kind of learn about this and see what inspires you and see what motivates you. For us, this was where we've ended up in, recent days, and there are tons of topics to explore. So we can go next slide. So I'll close out with some maybe advice from my young self, because just like you, I was a Cate student once upon a time. And what I'll say first and foremost is find your passion and pursue it. It's a little bit interesting to go and combine AI and art. I don't think it's something that a lot of people paid attention to, at least until recently. And I started working in college, right? I was working full-time in college, and I don't think when I told people back then in 2018 that they really understood what I was doing and why I was doing it. And they were all like, "This is weird, dude. What are you doing? Like, what are you doing? Why are you doing this stuff?" And I stuck with it because I was really passionate about it, and I saw the meaning of it. And here we are today. I think a lot of people understand the power of AI more. And in a similar vein, don't fear the unknown or the uncertain. There are a lot of things in life very often where you're not sure how it will turn out. Anytime you go and you start training an AI model, you'd have no idea what the results will be like. And there are a lot of places in life where I experienced this. So even when it comes to topics about AI, I think sometimes you can be a little bit afraid of it if you don't understand it. Don't fear it, learn it, embrace it. You can do it, understand it. Next, just remember the world is a beautiful place. Really important part is about, I work in AI and I work in digital art, and a lot of this remains in the digital realm. And bringing into the physical world and experiencing the physical world, making sure that the physical world is well represented in an age where things are becoming increasingly digital is very important. So, make sure you remember this. When things feel bad, just remember the world is a beautiful place. Look around you, step outside. And last but not least, make use of the toaster while you're here, guys. That's really important. That's it. Next slide one more time.
Hi, my name is Caroline. I'm a senior. Maybe this is a stupid question, but what do you mean by train the AI model? Like, what does that mean or entail?
So, whenever you have an AI model, it essentially looks like nothing at first. Basically, the way that all AI models start is just like random noise. And so you can imagine, like, if you have an image, for example, it's just like essentially black and white pixels. It doesn't know anything about anything. And when you train an AI model, you are feeding it data or parameters, or even parameters, or something like this, to inform the model about what it's trying to do. More often than not, you're trying to solve for a particular problem. In our case here, the interesting thing is that our problem is making beautiful art. And so when we train an AI model, for example, there are different model architectures. A lot of the stuff that you've seen here today is GAN, Generative Adversarial Network. Sorry. Generative Adversarial Network. And so you just start out with a model architecture. It looks like nothing, right? It's just essentially code. And you need to go and feed it the data in order for it to actually produce any sort of output like this. So that's what I mean by training the model.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Riley. I'm a senior, and I'm currently doing my senior inquiry research on the effects of digital age on personal and communal memory. And I'm kind of curious, what goes into the decision-making process of what is taken from the raw data and put into art, just because there's so much information out there.
Yeah, so, since we're making art projects, right, a lot of this will start actually with Refik, who comes to us with a creative vision for any given project. Sometimes we work with clients who request that we use a certain type of data, but more often than not, they just have a goal or objective. We'll say, let's go make a beautiful project about coral. Let's go make a beautiful project about, nature. Let's go make one about New York City. And so a lot of the decision making for what data we're actually using is taken from a creative vision to go and execute an artistic project. But in terms of the, model training and stuff like that, there's a lot of data filtering that goes into that.
Cool, thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Oliver. I'm a senior, and I was planning to take a gap year and just wanted to ask if you had any tips on how to make it productive and fun.
Well, I might be a bad person to ask because what I chose to do during my gap year was work. So I would say go travel and experience the world while you have the opportunity. But also figure out, it was really, really helpful for me to go into school with pretty good knowledge and background of what I wanted to study and why. And it really informed a lot of the decisions that I was making about the classes that I was taking, what I wanted to study, and honestly how I approached the school and work relationship all in one.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Andrew. I'm a sophomore. I have a question about AI art ownership. So I think that's a big question right now, especially with the public models where you can go online and ask an AI to do something for you. Of course, that's not the case here because it's your algorithm, but if it were to be open sourced and somebody makes a piece of art with it, who owns the art? Is it the studio, the person that made it, that put in the prompt, or the algorithm? What is your opinion on that?
That's a great question. So, long-winded answer to that. I think a lot of people who go and interact with AI models, when you're talking about somebody who has an artistic vision, right? They have an artistic vision because they have a keen eye for it, right? And the ability to use an AI model to go and generate art is just reducing the technical barrier required to go and make it, right? If I'm not good at drawing, but I have a beautiful vision of what I want to create, I can actually start using AI to go and execute that vision, right? So there's a certain amount of capability involved in that regard, right? I really feel very strongly that people who are using AI models to generate art are still artists themselves. And honestly, the ownership of that artwork should go to them. I will say, there are some asterisks here, right? I think if you go and you generate an image from any particular model, you should probably be citing that model as something that you use to go and create it. But I do feel very, very strongly that when somebody goes and interacts with a model, probably what you're familiar with seeing today, like the diffusion model, where you go and plug in some words and you get an image back, right? The amount of work that can go into creating and curating that prompt to get the kind of visual output that you want is really pretty extensive. And so I think there's a lot of authority to the artist still in that situation.
Okay, that's very insightful. Thank you.